In this video, I'm going to explain how I've helped over 400 plus men reverse insulin resistance and improve glucose uptake using carbohydrate metabolism. And in the video, we're going to go through the problem with insulin resistance and where most guys find themselves with an issue with insulin resistance. And then we're going to go through step 1, step 2, and step 3 on how to actually improve insulin resistance in your current situation. And then we're going to go through types of foods that we can stick to as well. So if you guys don't know me by now, my name's Adam Bunnell. I'm an online metabolic specialist, and I specialize in metabolic priming, which is a process of metabolism manipulation. I've worked with 400 plus men in 7 different countries utilizing this approach to get men to extremely low body fat percentages without utilizing low carb diets, without restricting calories to an extensive amount, and without having to do hours and hours of unwanted cardio. So we're going to get right into today's video because we got a lot of good things to cover. We're going to go through, first of all, like the overall problem with a lot of people where they find themselves with insulin resistance. But before I get into it, I want to have a caveat behind this to say that you will improve insulin resistance by simply just losing weight, right? If you're extremely overweight and have insulin resistance, losing weight will improve insulin resistance. Losing weight will improve a lot of different health conditions as well. So relatively, they've done studies on insulin resistance on men who are already in great shape, and these low carb diets that a lot of guys put themselves in create a lot of insulin resistance because you down-regulate the actual body's utilization of glucose. And so the problem really comes within the overall nutrition deficiencies within what you're actually currently eating. So the problem where a lot of guys find themselves is what's called metabolic gridlock. So metabolic gridlock, also known as mitochondrial metabolic gridlock, refers to the state where the body's mitochondria responsible for energy production become inefficient as switching between burning different fuel sources. This leads to a buildup of metabolic byproducts and a disruption in the body's ability to respond to fluctuating energy demands, contributing to metabolic dysfunction and disease. So healthy metabolism involves the ability to switch efficiently between glucose and fat for energy based upon the body's need. Metabolic gridlock happens when the ability is impaired, where the mitochondria struggle to produce incoming fuel, resulting of a buildup of metabolic and intermediates and a decline in overall metabolic function. Metabolic gridlock can arise from factors like overconsumption of calories, particularly from foods lacking physical activity, disruption to body natural diurnal rhythms, and eating fasting cycles, right? So impaired metabolic function can contribute to weight gain, insulin resistance, fatigue, an increase of developing chronic disease like type 2 diabetes, and some symptoms may actually include sluggish, difficulty in losing weight, and cravings for carbohydrates, which I'm guessing what you're feeling right now. So when you are insulin resistant, what can happen is you can put yourself in a spot where you can get into a traffic jam of nutrients. And when you're eating a high-fat, high-carb diet, the body can have issues with fuel partitioning and does not know what substrate of energy to actually utilize for fat or carbs, which means you run the risk of having even more insulin resistance piled on. So obviously the standard American diet is very high in carbohydrates, very high in fats. So like those two aside, it's like we need to have a high protein goal, for instance, and we're going to show you exactly how much protein that you should be eating. But the problem is that a lot of guys will eat high carbohydrate, high fat diet, and the body doesn't know what partitioning of fuel to actually utilize. So we can fix this by utilizing carbohydrate metabolism. So carbohydrate metabolism is the process of transitioning the body to utilizing primarily carbohydrates as the main fuel source of energy. So there's a bunch of different benefits that come with carbohydrate metabolism, like decrease in overall cortisol, decrease in inflammation, improvement of adrenal fatigue, improvement of just overall mental clarity, because carbohydrates are the body's main fuel source that it prefers to use. So when you start to go very low carb diet, you put yourself in a position of what's called fat metabolism, right? Where the body transitions into using ketosis, fat and protein as overall fuel. But the problem with these low carb diets is that they're, one, not very sustainable. 2 is that when you do go into a low carb diet, you create even more insulin resistance because your body doesn't know how to uptake glucose properly. So the better option of the two is understanding how much carbohydrates, how much fats to eat so you can transition your body properly into a carbohydrate metabolism state. So to go through this properly, I want to show you step 1 through 3 on how to actually do this correctly. So the first one is you want to lower your fats and put in place of carbohydrates. So the reason why we're lowering fats is because we want to partition the body to primarily using carbohydrates, right? We want to uptake glucose correctly and an improvement of actual utilization of carbohydrates. So when you lower your fats, we don't want to lower them too low because yes, You've all heard the stance of when you eat low-fat diet, your testosterone decreases. And yes, that is true to a certain extent. But if we have the correct amount of fats to maintain testosterone levels, we can actually utilize carbohydrates at a very high rate. And I want to put this into context as well, because a lot of guys do come to us who are performance athletes. And performance athletes need carbohydrates in their diet because it correlates to overall performance, because carbohydrates are a very ready, available energy source that can be utilized at a very fast rate, right? So keeping the context, like this is my client Wayne. This is an 8-week transformation. He's an avid cyclist. He cycles about 100 miles per week. On the left, he was on a low-carb diet at 1,900 calories. On the right, he's at 2,700 calories at 350 grams of carbohydrates, because we transitioned his body by lowering the fats, raising the carbohydrates very slowly. So how do we do this correctly, and how we put your body in a spot where it is utilizing carbohydrates correctly is first we have to find your starting calories. So for Wayne, for instance, what we did was we did a caloric intake maintenance assessment, right? Which we made him track his calories over the course of a few days, and we find exactly where his actual calories lie. So we started him off at 1.2 grams of protein per body weight, and we started him off at 0.3 grams of fat per body weight as well. So when we do calculate fat, don't want to get too low in fat, right? Because if we do get too low in fat, we can have overall hormonal issues, and the latter can actually happen as well if you eat too much in fats. But we have the correct amount of fats, we can transition the body and have the body utilize carbohydrates at a very, very fast rate. So like the lowest that I would consider going with a client would be probably 50 grams of fat. 60 is usually typically really where most of our clients do see a lot of the success at 60 grams of fat. Some a little bit higher, some who are very low in body weight, maybe a little bit lower, but there's no reason to ever go below 50 grams, because that's when we do start to run into overall health-related issues that correlate to overall hormones, because fat does correlate to hormones. It controls your testosterone, your metabolism, your thyroid, and a bunch of health actual concepts as well that actually fall into that category. So when you do this correctly, one, find your calories, find your protein, find your fat. So the remaining amount of calories that you're actually starting with, just fill with carbohydrates, right? So that'll be your starting point within your overall macronutrients. So the next step is we're going to focus on what's called raising energy flux. So energy flux in context of calories refers to the rate at which energy moves through the system, typically the human body. It represents the balance between energy intake, calorie consumed, and energy expenditure. A high energy flux indicate a greater turnover in calories, meaning more energy is being consumed and burned, while low energy flux indicates less turnover according to Fitness and Nutrition Resources. So it's basically energy balance versus energy flux. Energy balance refers to the difference between calories consumed and calories expended, and it determines whether weight is gained or lost or maintained. Energy flux, on the other hand, focuses on the entire amount of calories that is flowing through your system. So a high energy flux means a person is taking in and expending larger amount of calories, while a low energy flux means they're consuming and spending fewer calories. So the importance of energy flux with understanding is studies suggest that high energy flux achieved through a combination of higher caloric intake, increased physical activity can be beneficial for maintaining healthy weight, improving metabolic health, and facilitating adaptations to exercise. A person who eats a lot but also exercises a lot is in a high energy flux. A person who eats very little is in sedentary, is in a low energy flux. So the benefits of having a higher energy flux, you have more calories running through your system, yes, but logically you also are more satiated because you have to eat more food. So it's like we want to have a higher energy flux because there's a concept that states like, you know, what is the difference between eating 3,000 calories and burning 3,000 calories versus the difference between eating 2,000 calories and burning 2,000 calories? Well, one, if you're eating 3,000 calories, you're more metabolically healthy, your metabolism is higher because you're consuming more calories, and you have more nutrients running through your body that correlate to health, how you feel, overall satiation, even hormones that actually come down to ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. And so we want to have a higher energy flux to make sure that we are sustaining overall bodily functions and that we are overall sustaining, you know, energy levels, hunger, XYZ as well. So how to do this correctly, and we want to put this in a context, is that we want to stay active while we are eating more food because it's going to allow us to eat more food, but also allow us to burn more calories and allow us to lose more body fat. That's the reason you see the guys on my page right now up thousands of calories, but down 30, 40 pounds, is because they're eating more food, but we're maintaining a higher energy flux. So to do this correctly, we want to stick between 8 to 10,000 steps a day. This ensures that we are keeping non-energy activity thermogenesis high. So the benefits of walking, for instance, even when we get into the studies they've done in the National Institute of Health, 8 to 10K steps a day will actually increase all-cause rate mortality, right? And improve the longevity and how long you live. But also, it increases non-energy activity thermogenesis. It's a very low barrier to entry form of cardio, quote unquote, which is not really cardio. It's just something that you can do every day. But if you can get in a habit of doing it every day, you can increase energy flux. You can also eat more food, burn more calories, but also it helps with a lot of digestion-related issues as well. Because steps overall do increase overall digestion and improve digestion by allowing food to flow through our body a lot more smooth. But also steps are a great form of decreasing lactate, which is like inflammation and cortisol. So best practice is fasted walk in the morning, because this fasted walk will allow us to utilize fat at a fasted state, but also have carbohydrates in our diet. And then strength training to build overall metabolic health. It takes 8 calories to sustain 1 pound of muscle tissue, and it takes 2 calories to sustain 1 pound of body fat. So if we're staying to 8 to 10 steps, but also having a good strength training program, we can, 1, have a higher energy flux, but 2, we can allow the body to burn more calories at rest, because if you have more muscle tissue, you burn more calories at rest, which allows you to stay leaner, which allows you not to have to do a bunch of cardio or lower your food to an extensive amount. So we want to have a higher energy flux with steps and strength training to improve overall metabolic functions, but also improve glucose uptake. Because once our body is utilizing this glucose correctly for steps for our strength training sessions, and we are putting carbohydrates, glucose into intramuscularly and utilizing those carbohydrates when time does come of performance within strength training, we can utilize the body at a higher rate to improve the amount that it actually is burning carbohydrates, but utilizing carbohydrates intramuscularly, but also within the cells as well. So the next step of the carbohydrate metabolism is you want to raise carbs each week to allow the body to uptake more glucose correctly. So how you do this correctly, and we do this for all our clients, and each week as they check in, we check on certain things. We check on body weight, body composition, energy levels, strength, and all of these decisions you can make correlated data decisions based upon, right? Because all of these data points are measurements on how your body is reacting correctly to carbohydrates. So when they do check in, we just update these each week for our clients, and they just follow it. Make it very simple for them. We just lay it out on the table for them, and we just update it each week, and then they follow what obviously we put on the table for them. But if you want to do this for yourself, and if you want to try this on your own, you can, 1, track photos and not your weight, because there's a concept that there's weight loss is not fat loss. For instance, if you're losing muscle tissue and you're getting lower on the scale, then you are becoming more metabolically inactive, right? We don't want to lose muscle tissue because muscle tissue is highly metabolic. So it's not about losing weight. It's a lot about losing body fat. And a lot of people go wrong within this because they will lose the weight, lose the muscle tissue, become less metabolically active, and then when they add calories back, that's when they gain the weight back. So make changes once per week at most. Watch body weight, watch body composition, strength and energy, and make changes based upon data. So some key quick factors with this is weight is at or below previous week, you can raise carbs. Body composition is improving since previous week, raise carbs. And we don't want to raise carbs tremendous amount. 25 to 50 grams is all we really need, and then we wait, right? Some weeks you might not see much changes and you have to wait another week, because you have to understand how the body does transition properly. It does take a correlated amount of time for the body to transition into a carbohydrate metabolism state. Some clients it takes 2 weeks, some clients it takes 4. But we have to understand that each client is individually works differently, their body works differently, and we want to implement carbohydrates at a slow amount to regulate glucose levels and to allow the body to open up these cells to actually intake this glucose correctly. So we want to understand that you don't need to make changes every week, but you want to only make changes once a week, right? So what I mean by that is, like, pick a day that you want to check in with yourself, with your photos, your weight, and every XYZ, everything in between, and look over the data. Don't make decisions based upon how you feel. Look over the data. And if there's no changes within the data, wait another week. And then if the next week there's no changes, no data being observed that has any physical or weight changes, wait another week. Because we have to understand the body is a lot smarter than we are, and we need to treat it as such. Sometimes it will take a week or 2 for your body to fully transition, and that's why we have to be patient, right? And to do this correctly, we need to understand is that Why we want to make changes once per week is because we want to take the data through the entire week, not take the data for the entire day. So, like I said, we can run through this step by step really quickly. I want to track your calories, nail your protein, nail your fat, fill the rest with carbs. Increase energy flux with strength training and steps, and then slowly raise carbohydrates each week based upon data. So some extras that we can actually focus on types of food, which I get a lot of questions as well, is the best thing you can do when you're focusing on types of food is simple ingredients, no additives, simple is better. Like obviously the body, it works best when it has simple ingredients running through its body. Just simple whole source foods, from the earth or wherever you get it from. When you start to add all these extra additives into your diet, like seed oils, or just like complex ingredients, protein bars, or XYZ in between, it can cause digestive issues. And to understand digestive issues at a high rate, metabolism is directly correlated to digestion, right? Because digestion is how your body breaks down food, and metabolism is how your body utilizes the broke down food as energy. So we have to understand is that like digestion is most important. In a lot of cases, when clients come to us and we improve their digestion within the first week, we've seen guys lose 15 pounds in a week just with the overall improvement of digestion. So when we correlate this and we transition the body to carbohydrate metabolism state and we lower the fats, we are subsequently also improving digestion, because when you understand fats as a whole, fats has a very high calorie per gram and a very low thermic effect, which means it does not burn much calories to actually intake. And when you're thinking about this from a digestive concept, is that we want carbohydrates to actually be the utilization factor in the improvement of digestion, because it's not only going to have a lower calorie per gram, but it's also going to have a higher thermic effect, but it's going to improve a lot of digestion. Like let's take in the concept after a big, meal of a lot of fats, like Thanksgiving, Christmas meals, is like you're extremely tired and fatigued afterwards. That's because the body's rushing blood to your intestinal organs in your gut because of all the fats that you're consuming, that is very hard for the body to digest. So the pros to actually carbohydrate metabolism and a lower fat intake is going to be the improvement overall digestion, the improvement overall cortisol levels. And for a lot of the guys who we coach, for instance, like VPs, fighter pilots, Delta airline pilots, ER doctors, all the guys who we work with are very high level individuals, have very high stress jobs. So we need to actually lower their fats and increase their carbohydrates for the improvement of digestion, but also for the improvement of mental clarity. So there's some fats that we can focus on from a more metabolically healthy perspective is polysaturated and monosaturated fats for metabolic health. So nuts, avocado, fish oil, olive oil is going to be very beneficial for overall metabolic health. Saturated fats, for instance, will start to decline metabolic health subsequently, like saturated fats or just fats that aren't as whole and as healthy sourced, right? There's a perfect correlation between overall metabolic health and polysaturated and monosaturated fats. So it's like, yes, we have the amount of fats that we want to eat per day, but the types of fats that we eat within that caloric amount need to be correlated to overall great metabolic health. So next, using carbs like white rice, cream rice, fruit, and rice cakes, a higher glycemic carbohydrates, is going to overall improve digestion as well. So the improvement of digestion is a very key pivotal point within overall clients' programs, because it allows us to improve digestion, but also improve nutrient uptake, right? So white rice, cream rice, fruits, and rice cakes are very high glycemic carbohydrates, yes. And so I know there's a lot of guys who, read online about the detrimental effects of high glycemic carbohydrates, but it's simply just not true. High glycemic carbohydrates are better for digestion. They're better for nutrient uptake. They're better for probiotics and prebiotics within your overall gut health. And lower glycemic carbohydrates like oats, brown rice, bread, those are all great. And we can utilize those in an aspect, but we want to understand that those also have a lot of fiber and they also have some fats in them. So they're going to be very slow to digest. So when we start to improve the actual uptake of nutrients within overall digestion, we can start to improve a lot of glucose uptake as well. So the caveat behind this, and what we do see sometimes, we have to make certain adjustments with clients, is if some clients do come and they're extremely insulin sensitive and we add white rice, we actually have to switch them back over to a little bit darker sources of or lower glycemic carbohydrates and slowly introduce higher glycemic carbohydrates. It does happen every so often, but that's the purpose of why we do hands-on with our clients, is understanding how to transition the body from a lower glycemic carbohydrate source to a higher glycemic carbohydrate source, but also improve overall digestion. So next is protein, simple protein sources with a complete amino profile. So the protein that you get from like protein bars, it's great, right? It's good for supplemental resources. But like overall, what's going to be most beneficial from digestion standpoint, but and also nutrient uptake standpoint, but also amino profile uptake is going to be just simple ingredient meats, right? Meat, dairy, protein powder is great. I wouldn't ever go over 2 scoops of protein powder a day, but you can supplement protein powder. But meat, for instance, is going to be the healthiest source with the best amino profile, which is a complete source of protein that's going to be beneficial for overall metabolic health as well. So if we stick to these and simplify a lot of the diet, we can improve nutrient uptake, insulin sensitivity, but also digestion, which correlates to overall health benefits, yes, but also a healthy bodily structure and just health benefits within health panels, within, blood sugar levels, cholesterol levels. There's a ton of guys who have came to us with all of these issues with taking over-the-counter drugs from doctors, and we were able to improve all of those, get them off all of those types of drugs by utilizing correct nutrition. Because you guys have to understand, the doctor's job is to prescribe medication, not to explain nutrition at a high level. Their job is to say, if this is the problem, take this. And yes, that's great if you do have a severe health condition, but where it comes into the issue is that when you get reliant on those, that your body becomes very reliant on over-the-counter drugs, it doesn't become very beneficial in an overall longevity perspective. And so understand that the doctor's job is to prescribe you things. We have tons of clients who've come to us all over the world who we've improved A1C levels, who we've improved liver enzymes, who we've improved cholesterol levels, and we've gotten them drug-free and healthier overall, feeling better and overall looking better by utilizing actual correct nutrition, but also utilizing how the body utilizes energy sources to improve insulin sensitivity, to improve overall physique, lean body composition, and overall health and longevity. And that's the purpose of understanding nutrition at a very high level and understanding metabolic health at a very high level. So, like always, I keep about 90% of the information off of this channel for my paid for clients. If you want to learn a little bit more about our program, there's going to be a link in the bio of this description. Click on it. There'll be a short video explaining why, what it is, how it works, and if this is something that you would like to do, and if you're somebody who has been struggling to get lean, struggling with insulin sensitivity, struggling with blood glucose levels, struggling with cholesterol levels, and you want to reach a next level physique like some of our clients who are 50 years old, absolutely shredded, then go ahead and fill out an application. We'll jump on a call and we'll see if it's a good fit for you to work to us. And if it is a great fit, then we'll get you rocking, right? Because we are the #1 online fitness company as of right now that utilizes metabolism at the rate that we do and understands metabolism at the rate that we do as well. So like I said, if you're somebody who has been struggling and you want to reach a next level physique like some of these great clients that I work with, the link will be in the description, and I'll see you guys next time because we do videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So turn my bell notifications on. And like I said, the whole purpose of this entire channel is to help you guys out, to spread awareness, and to explain the importance of metabolic health in general. But most of the things that we keep off this channel, we keep for our paid for clients. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching the video.